Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're watching across the globe. Welcome to another late night edition from me with Crime Time with DutyRon. Guys and girls, you know the drill. I am a retired New York City police detective, and if you like all things true crime related from the police detective's perspective, consider hitting that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, so you'll get all things DutyRon and Ed Wallace when we go live or upload another video. Hey, tonight, this is my third show of the day. This is a marathon. You know, guys like Bill Cannon, they could do this all day long because he's got that vim and vigor. But for me, this is like I'm exhausted. I'm almost out of breath and out of talking power. But we're going to talk tonight about our boys, Orrin and Orson West, sincere and classic. These are our two boys from California City and Bakersfield. They are parents. The adoptive parents are on trial. This is day 6, the end of day 6. Trezell and Jacqueline West on trial for the murder of these beautiful baby boys. And tonight, I want to just say a special thank you to you, the Patreon supporters, the channel members, the folks who watch the replays and hit the thumbs up and leave comments down below in the comment section. You are what makes this a great place. I give thanks and praise to each and every one of you. And thank you for your positive interaction and respectfully engaging in this community. It's really what makes it a great place. And I can't thank you guys enough. But before we get into it, again, I have two special guests tonight. I have Melanie Little. She is an attorney. She has a wealth of information. She's a trial attorney. She's been at this game for a long time. Her thoughts and her opinions on this case are invaluable. And I also have retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, homicide detective sergeant from the Fighting 2-4. That's Manhattan North Homicide. So we have those two on with us tonight, and I'm honored to have them here. So without further ado, Melanie, Bill, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having us. Good evening.
Yes. You know, Melanie, a show on Crime Time with DutyRon without you and Bill Cannon, I'm not sure how that would go off. So I sent at the last minute, I sent a little note to Bill, hey, you want to come? And he was like, Melanie's there? I'm there. Yes. But we did a video about this case a little bit over a week ago. And again, we're seeing the defense go at the responding police, the California City Police Department. As we know, Bill, we spoke about this in depth. Very small department, not handling a lot of jobs. They do have missings. They do have things going on there. But when you have a small department, you got younger officers. This is a defense attorney's dream. Melanie, any thoughts on that?
Agreed. Well, first of all, thank you so much for doing the hat trick today, because this is really such an important case that is not being covered virtually anywhere other than some local stations outside of Bakersfield and that part of California. I think, they're trying to poke holes in the department because it's a small department, but I really don't think they're getting very far with it. So we're going to go over all the testimony that we've heard on days 4, 5, and 6, and we'll talk about it. And we'll see what you and Bill have to say. But I really don't think they're making that much headway, the defense.
Yeah, I mean, I called a couple of other friends before we went live to talk today, a couple of attorneys. I reached out to Joe Murray. He told me I'd have to get in line, so I didn't get a hold of him. But I spoke to my friend Jess, the mystery maven. She did a video. I shared it with you, and she felt the same exact way. And I know that, you probably didn't get a chance to look at her video, but she said, as of this point, and we're in the infancy stage in this trial, right? We're on day 6, but there's so many more witnesses that are going to be coming on. But she felt too that the defense is trying to poke holes in the prosecution's case, but thus far hasn't succeeded. Bill, I wanted to ask you, you're a retired NYPD boss. You're a retired sergeant, and you supervise the Manhattan North Homicide Squad, arguably the most busy squad in the borough of Manhattan. Can you speak on how important it is on a case like this where someone, now you just don't have one, you have 2 boys that went missing. So on that night, when they reported them missing on December 21st of 2020, how important is it to have a supervisor on scene to take charge to get the operation going?
You know, Ron, running major investigations is an art form in itself. And a lot of times, smaller departments don't have the experience, and you get good at it from doing it a lot of times. And for example, I ran so many major investigations that it was almost like, you just did it by rote. And my detectives were so good, I didn't have to really tell them what to do. They knew exactly what to do. And if it was a major incident, we would have detectives come in from other detective squads, and I would direct them what to do. Some detectives obviously need more direction than others, because sometimes people take the path of least resistance. And, you see the same detective wants to go to the hospital every time. And then his response to the hospital, you don't get a report. And you're like, you're not going to the hospital anymore. When you do something, you have to do a DD5. That's a complaint follow-up. And when this certain detective I'm thinking of right now, he would go to the hospital. I say, where's the DD5? So yeah, it's important. And the boss is very important, because the boss has to ascertain what prioritize and what is the most important thing to do and what order should we do them in. And obviously the case is in flux constantly. So something that you find out may change the entire direction of the case. In this case, with these boys missing, right away, you needed to get, boots on the ground and a physical search in place, and, get a helicopter up in the air, get all the lights around there that you could possibly get. And then in my mind, it was very important to get Trezell and Jacqueline in the interrogation box, because their story from minute one was not believable. I would have separated them immediately and got them right into the precinct, because clearly they were no help in searching for these kids. So I'd have got them in the box. I would have got them interrogated immediately, and I would have put the pressure on them, because when you look at their body language, they were just totally not credible whatsoever.
Yeah, they wreak deception, Bill, and we said this from the get-go. The disadvantage that the California City Police Department had is exactly resources. They were not afforded, like you just talked about, when one of your detectives would go sick or one of your detectives would call out, there would always be 10 guys to replace them, or you'd be able to backfill. California City, they really had very small amount of resources. And Chief John Walker at the time, a former LAPD sergeant, before he took on the police chief role. And, I spoke with him on the phone a couple of times while this case was going on. And he didn't give me any information or inside information, but I did, speak to him and gave him encouragement. And I asked him to come on the show a couple of times, and he said that he couldn't. I respected that. But the bottom line is that he reached out to his former department, to the LAPD, and put a helicopter up in a very short period of time. And Melanie, you and I, we spoke about this in the green room before we went live with Bill. It was up for 2 90-minute periods. They gassed up one time and came back up in the air and searched and searched. And then after the second 90-minute period, they were done, because I feel that vast area, which most of it is the Mojave Desert, there's just only certain amounts of places where you could look for 2 little boys. So,
Ron, also at the time, weren't the boys 2 and 3 years old?
Yeah.
How far could they possibly have gotten from the backyard if the parents were telling the truth? How far? They couldn't have gotten very far away. So the helicopter did probably more than more than was even called for. Because the truth was, the boys were never there. The boys were never there.
They were 3 and 4 years old, Bill. So not 2 and 3, but 3 and 4. Again, how far can a little child get? And we saw the pictures. Melanie, on the last live we did with Bill, I put those pictures up. They were, little scrawny little guys, so they were teeny. I want to play this little clip before we go any further. This is from day 4. We're going to be talking on day 4, 5, and today. On day 4, we heard from the real estate agent. We heard from the mortgage broker, and I believe the Chief Hightower, came on. But Melanie, you're going to correct me because I see you looking at your notes.
The exterminator. We're here for the exterminator.
Exterminator. And we got a lot to talk about with that exterminator. So let me just play this little piece and we'll be right back.
The murder trial of Trezell and Jacqueline West resumed this morning. The Cal City couple is charged with the deaths of their adopted sons, Orrin and Orson. 23 ABC's Veronica Morley joins us live from outside the courthouse with all the details from today's testimony. Good evening, Veronica.
Good evening, Mark. Today's testimony mainly focusing on those who had contact with the Wests and their children on the days leading up to and immediately following their purchase of their Cal City home. Now, witnesses today included the realtor and loan officer who helped the couple purchase the home, as well as a pest exterminator who visited the home shortly after the couple moved in. Both the realtor and the exterminator were asked to recall the number of children they saw in the home. However, neither had a clear recollection. It could only say they knew they saw several children. Realtor Robert Dees stated he visited the home on September 11th, 2020, the day the couple moved in. He said while he was there, he saw the kids on the back patio and noted that the toddler sitting had a, quote, upset look on his face. In court today, Dees was asked to identify whom he believed he saw that day, and Dees identified Orson in a photo. The other witness who testified to seeing children in the home was owner of Antelope Valley Pest Control, Joseph Karshamroom. He stated he visited the home on September 15th, 2020 and saw several children, but again could not give an exact number. He said he asked for the kids to be moved outside while he worked in the home and noted that he saw a child being carried out of a home in a child carrier. Now, another witness who testified today was a neighbor who had surveillance cameras recording the night the children were reported missing. The prosecution highlighting that on the recordings, they showed a white van driving by the neighbor's home, but nothing of the two boys. However, the defense noted that while going through the surveillance video, a good chunk of about 19 minutes was missing between clips. And there was some confusion about the white van and a Saturn SUV that passed by. Now, court is set to resume tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.
So that was Monday, day 4. I think they went over that good. And, again, I forgot about the actual neighbor, too. That's how the day ended, not with Hightower. That was Tuesday. Ed Wallace is checking in the chat from, I believe he's in Tokyo. You never know where this guy is, but he's all over the place. So he's traveling with his family. Thank you, Ed, for being in the chat. Melanie, I want to go to you right away. The defense, it seems like, first of all, the prosecution, let me just start with the prosecution. They're trying to lay down the groundwork for that most people who come in contact with Trezell and Jacqueline West never see these boys. And the defense is trying to say that they were there and that they were cared for. But again, we heard from this exterminator, and he used some terminology that we heard Trezell use in front of the house. He used that word, the rambunctious word, right?
Yeah, he said the kids were patient without being too rambunctious, and he was very surprised that the children were so well behaved. He also did say he did see 4 or 5 kids there, but he was a very jovial witness. I think, it's so hard when we can't see the people that are testifying. We can only hear them, but based on what I could hear, I thought he made a great witness. He's a non-interested witness, so he really has no axe to grind and no bone to pick. But he did say that the children were well behaved and that he was called into the grand jury. He was never contacted by law enforcement until about a year later, and nobody ever asked him for his computer records or his logs or anything. So again, they're trying to poke holes in the investigation, saying, well, why didn't anybody ever ask this guy for his logs? I don't know that that's really fatal at all.
Yeah, Bill and I early on said from an investigative, I think I did a video that said the 9 people I would want to interview. And I included anybody from the trades that did any kind of work, whether it was an air conditioning repair guy. Now we're hearing about this pest control guy. I said the postman, the UPS, the garbage guys, everybody and anybody who passes by that house or has interactions with anything to do with anything in that community. I felt it was an important part of this investigation to talk to them. Hey, have you seen these kids there? Bill, you agreed with me on that. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, look, we talked about them talking to the mailman, talking to any delivery service, UPS guys, any kind of delivery service that may go in there. What's so important in a case like this also is the first response to the scene is a good canvas of the area, because it just seemed like, you have to be able to refute what he's saying. And his story and her story were just ridiculous. And it's important that the police do a good canvas and say, look, those kids were not there. A 3 and a 4-year-old are not going to wander 5 miles from the house in 10 minutes. If they were there, we would have found them. And it's clear they weren't there.
Yeah. And it was clear from the get-go, and the responding officers who went there, including Hansen and the whole crew that was there, they felt right away that, there was no way based on what they saw. And we spoke about this. They went into that adjacent lot and they didn't see any footprints. There was no sign that anybody was in those lots. And that happened early on. But we started out day 4 on Monday with the real estate agent. And the real estate agent said he stopped and he went in to get a little present for the new family, customary what real estate agents do. He said he made a stop and then he went there September 11th and he sat in the kitchen with Trezell and Jacqueline. West saw the kids in a circle outside on the patio and so forth. But Melanie, I know you took a little bit better notes than I had in regards to the real estate agent. What was some of the things of what the prosecution wanted to lay down for the jury by putting that real estate agent on there and talking also to the mortgage broker?
Sure. I think the number one thing that they wanted to establish was that their main source of income, really their only source of income, was the money that they were receiving for fostering and adopting these children. Robert Dees, the real estate salesperson, said that he did see 4 or 5 children there. He said that one of the kids was mean mugging him, that he was sitting around looking very, very angry, and that Jacqueline said something to him like, "Oh, he's always in a bad mood." And then he was shown a photograph and asked to identify which child that was, and he said he thought it was Orson. But remember, this was in September. So this was 3 months before the children were reported missing. And the same thing goes for the exterminator. The exterminator made the visit to the home in September. So these are all, witnesses that saw the children there, but 3 months prior to the time that they were reported missing.
Yeah, right. And that's the thing is that, there's so much, they had so much time in between the time that they reported and, September to December to get their story straight, to put forth a story that sounded legitimate. And when they just said that the kids were in the backyard and went out of that gate, I mean, even Chief John Walker, remember this, Bill? He said it's impossible that those kids got out of that back gate and just wandered off.
Right.
And this is the story that they're sticking to this day.
And also he was, according to his story, he was searching for firewood or something.
Yeah, he was throwing firewood in and out, and there was just tumbleweed there. So, again, there's so much that we're going to hear about in this trial. They have this thing slated for closing arguments in the first week of June. I mean, that's a long time. That means there's a ton of witnesses that's going to be coming forward. And what we're seeing here is just a small slither of who's going to be called to the stand. We heard from, on day 6, I'm skipping forward. We heard from Jacqueline's mom, who did not speak a lick of English. There was a Spanish interpreter there. It made it difficult to kind of follow along. We heard from the foster mom who had these boys today on the stand. Very emotional. She seemed like, a very credible witness. She gave great testimony and was cross-examined by the defense. But let me just go to the neighbor, Melanie, on day 4. I want to skip to the neighbor. He talked about some of his footage. He seemed to have he seemed to be a little standoffish with the cross-examination. I seemed a little annoyed to be there. That was the take that I got from him. He was giving these yeah and no, yeah. those kind of answers, when you hear that from a witness, you know that A, they don't want to be there, and B, he just seemed annoyed by the whole process. But he did have some good video evidence. The evidence showed that there was no boys walking or running down the street. The video and the evidence that he had showed that Jacqueline and Trezell, especially Jacqueline, did not come out of that house to look for their boys. And Trezell did not light up his vehicle and put it on those empty lots to look in those lots at any time. So I think it was very,
He had 7 cameras on his property. Right. 7 cameras. We're not just talking about one Ring doorbell camera and one, side yard camera. This guy had 7 cameras on his property. And you're right. He probably doesn't want to be involved in this. Yeah. He was probably subpoenaed and he had to come. And, but I thought his testimony was great. I mean, the defense tried to poke holes in it saying like, oh, is your video continuous or did it jump? And he said, well, yeah, it jumped from 5:11 to, I think it was an 18-minute period. But my cameras are motion activated, and that's the reason for it. So I think that's completely believable. I think it's explainable, and I don't think that he did any damage. I think he was very helpful.
Yeah. I want to go to the chat quickly because there's a couple of folks in here. I saw Roe, who is part of the biological family. She was here with us on our last live. Roe was sending you strength and positive vibes. Keeshallday, who led the prayer at the end of our live stream, Melanie, last time we were on. Keeshallday is here, and she says, yes, he was a DutyRon, very annoying. I think more so, Keish, that, I know that you guys were in the courtroom, but he just appeared to me to be annoyed with the cross-examination. And the prosecution wants a witness who's going to be pretty much even-keeled and answer the questions and not seem combative. And that's what I was trying to really say here. I guess I didn't convey the message the right way. He just seemed combative with them. And unfortunately, it doesn't come all across the right way when you have jurors sitting there listening to every little piece. And that brings me to Tuesday, when we now started hearing testimony from some more of the police officers. And the California City Police Department and the district attorney, I don't know how they prep these guys, but the testimony that I listened to, again, from California City, was just disheartening. You had a second officer, I didn't write his name down, who took it upon himself out of curiosity, because he was RDO, that's his regular day off, on the date of this incident. On Tuesday, he testified that he took it upon himself to go and check things out. And then when he was asked about his body cam footage and all of his notes, he said he was going off of his memory.
Is this the guy who made the Facebook post and then he didn't remember making the Facebook post, and then they showed him the Facebook post and they showed him the video of the Facebook post and he still didn't remember making the Facebook post? Keish, you have a way better vantage point than we do because you're sitting in the courtroom and you can see all of this evidence that we can't see. We're just hearing it. So, if you want to chime in on what your thoughts were on that, I would love to hear it.
Right.
But he sounded like it wasn't good.
No, it was not good at all. And courtroom testimony, when we were in the police academy, we got that training. We got, courtroom testimony and preparation. But we were also as Bill, you said it before, when you're in an active police department where you're making a lot of arrests or you're having to testify a lot, that's how you get good at what you do. And to be good at something like this, you need to have copious notes and you need to refer to them and refresh yourself, not going by your memory from 3 years ago. It's just, we're talking about 2 young boys. We're looking to try to get justice for them. And that's not helping the case when you have cops that come in and testify and say, I don't know, I don't remember, I don't recall. I mean, that only goes so far. Bill, I know you're chomping at the bit.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, it's so important to give an air of professionalism, that you're a professional. You're a professional police officer. You're a professional detective. You're a professional sergeant, lieutenant, whatever your rank is. And as such, you're supposed to be able to be articulate and to testify with a great degree of professionalism. And having said that, it's always okay to refer to your notes, or to refer to a complaint report, to refer to an accident report, to refer to some report that you filled out. No one expects a human being to remember something verbatim that they performed a year and a half to 2 years ago. No one can do that. So it's always okay to say, excuse me, counsel, would it be okay if I refer to my notes? And they're not going to say no. They can't say no because the judge would overrule them. Yes, you can.
Melanie, you have to agree. It would be a better look if those officers said, hey, can I have time to look at my notes? But I feel like they didn't even have the notes.
Well, he admitted that, Bill, to your point, he admitted he did not make a report. He didn't make a report. He was wearing a body cam. He did not prepare for his testimony. He admitted to that. And they also showed his body cam video in the courtroom, I believe. And it was him walking with Trezell around the backyard, getting his version of events. And correct me if I'm wrong, but wouldn't it be important to write a report about what happened?
Yeah.
And not just turn in your body cam footage and say, peace out?
Right. Yeah. And here's our friend Jess, the mystery maven. She did a video about
Michael Kalakios.
Yeah, Kalakios. He admitted that he didn't prepare at all.
Mm-hmm.
When I heard that, my blood boiled. I was so angry because what is he trying to do here? Are we trying to hinder the prosecution or help them? It's just mind blowing to me. And I hope that we don't hear or see much more of this, because I know that Bakersfield Police Department, they took over the investigation, and I'm hoping and praying that police department, because there are several hundred members in that department, I think 600 or 700 member department, I'm hoping and praying that Bakersfield PD has their shit together, because California City, and I'm not one to poo-poo on the police, but what I'm seeing here is very disheartening. I want to play a piece.
You know, Ron, you might just interject something.
Go ahead.
It's also the responsibility of the district attorney to prep the witnesses. And if the witnesses are bad, get them ready, get them, train them, teach them. You have to have your notes, because it doesn't seem like you're remembering things. You don't have a photographic memory. If you think you're going to get up on the stand and remember it, you're not, because look, you're not remembering it now.
Right.
So it is the job of the assistant district attorney to prep the witnesses.
Right, exactly. And look at this question. Now that you're saying that, this comes in from Jackie Vineyard. She does all the chapters for us, so she breaks down all the chapters. So thank you for what you do for the community here. She is sending in a question. I can't be here the whole time. You know, she's a busy stockbroker, so she's got to trade on the Hang Seng. She's got a whole bunch of things that she does. Just kidding. Melanie, what type of trial prep is usually done prior to trial? Question mark. I was
you're talking about
witnesses receive some kind of advice, so to speak.
With regard to the witnesses, sure. I mean, the person, the team or the side that's going to call the witness preps the witness. Listen, if these are prosecution witnesses and we're on the prosecution's case now, so this is their case. They had 50 witnesses testify in front of the grand jury. So it's their job to prep the witnesses. You know, to sit down with them, to go over their testimony. Here's what I'm going to ask you. Do you need anything to refresh your recollection? Are there any documents you'd like to review? Do you want to review your notes? And once a witness is on the stand, if a witness brings a file or something with them, all of that's discoverable, and the defense attorney can say, "Can I see what's in your file?" And that's fine. But it's totally fine for them to refer to their notes, and you would hope that they would, because they're taking it that seriously.
But it's clear and apparent here that didn't happen. And look, Ro is here in the chat, and she says, DutyRon, you already know how I feel about that. I'm not a cop, and reports are important. Shaking my head. Yeah, Keish backs it up right on top of her comment. I feel like a lot of the officers didn't do their notes as they should have. There's I's was not dotted and the T's were not crossed correctly. They didn't do their fiduciary responsibility. I mean, I hate to even see the comment, but when I listened to the testimony, combination of yesterday and today and back into the earlier days of the trial, it's just, I'm shaking my head. And again, this is not, we're not saying that this trial is done and that the case is, they're going to be losing this case. I'm just hoping that Bakersfield, when their command and control, Chief Terry from the Bakersfield PD. We saw Chief Terry conduct massive searches outside of Casa Loma over in Bakersfield. He had some 50 to 100 detectives scouring fields in Bakersfield. We're going to hear about that, folks. It's part of this case. There was over 100 FBI agents there, and they did one full, complete year investigation in the case of Orrin and Orson West, Sincere and Classic. And in 1 year, 365 days to the T, they made that arrest. They took the case on March 1st. They made the arrest March 1st of the next year. So I'm hoping and praying that Bakersfield comes in with their T's crossed and their I's dotted. This is a small clip, and I'm sorry, guys, these are small clips from Chief Hightower. There's a conversation here from KGET.
The trial against Trezell and Jacqueline West, the California City couple accused of murdering their missing adopted sons, Orrin and Orson West, continued today. On the witness stand this morning, California City Police Chief Jesse Hightower. He testified he noticed something off about Jacqueline West, saying she failed to show any indication of frustration, anxiety, or anger about the boys' disappearance. He said she seemed just, quote, neutral. Hightower testified the investigation changed after the West's other children were interviewed, with the prosecutors saying in opening statements, one child said he witnessed Orrin West die.
What do you think about that, Melanie? One of the children, and now I'm afraid for this interview because we found out early on that Hansen did these interviews, told whoever interviewed him, we don't know if it was Hansen for sure. One of the children said, one of Trezell's sons said he saw one of the boys die.
Well, we recall that Hansen was a disaster on the stand. And there was some testimony from Hightower today about him using the wrong forms to interview the children, that he used the forms for a child suspect and not a child witness. He was not aware, I think, that Hansen had used the wrong forms. He thought it was most important that a child know the difference between a truth and a lie. And I guess we're going to find out whether this child is going to be able to testify, because that testimony could be key.
Yeah.
I think he's 10, or I think he was 10 when he was interviewed, if I'm recalling the right testimony.
10. Yep.
And a 10-year-old can be found competent to testify. So we're going to have to see. But I mean, that could be really important testimony.
Yeah, it's troubling when you see and you hear about this type of witness, a young child coming forward, and wrong forms were used. This is a defense attorney's dream. The answer to the wrong forms being used is that there were no other forms available. That was the response, if my memory serves me correct. And that was early on in this thing. And, that's just unacceptable. Because
Ron, if I could just also interject something here.
Of course.
This is such a big case, and it's so important that you do things right. If this Officer Hansen, Detective Hansen, if he wasn't up to the task of interviewing these kids, they should have got someone in there who was. Someone that was qualified and was experienced in interviewing children. And, and I can just compare my own experience. We would call someone from Manhattan Special Victims, and hopefully usually a female detective, but they're best at that in interviewing children. They have the feminine touch, and if I get beat up for this, that's okay. They were better at it than males, I felt. And that's why it's so important to do the correct interview and to build up to the interview. Don't go right into the hard questions. Qualify the kid. See what he understands. See how smart he is. Right. And then build to the important questions. But you got to take your time. You may take an hour just to talk about other things than what actually happened.
Yeah. And in the opening, I remember this from the beginning, and Jess, the Mystery Mavis, just reminded me in the chat. In the opening, the district attorney said the children will testify. So, yeah, so we have a roller coaster ride here that is going to be really emotional, really interesting on many levels. Hearing a child testify to the fact of seeing another young boy killed or die. I mean, I don't know how that's going to go. It's going to be very emotional. And we heard today emotional testimony from the original foster mom. And she, like I said, Latoya Sanders, she got on that stand and she did a great job in day 6. Much better than, and I'm embarrassed to say this, much better than the police officers that got on the stand. We heard today also from one of the Bakersfield, California police detectives. He said he was working in now a joint FBI task force. He went in there and grilled Jacqueline. He put her in the box, but it wasn't the night of. I believe it was 2 days later. And he went there, he went to California City and interviewed her. And what we heard today was garbled from the Zoom feed. It was not really, I don't know. I really couldn't make out everything that he was saying to her. You could hear her coming back to him and saying, "Oh, no, that's not how this went." And there was an exchange for 55 or some odd minutes of interview and interrogation. It started out nice, and then it worked its way into an interrogation. But, you know, again, they're going to continue this. It's going to continue tomorrow, I believe. But the bottom line is that, you know, we're going to hear from a lot more investigators from the Bakersfield Police Department. This is not just going to be this one detective. And he was a kind of a new guy. He had 6 years on the job at the time. So, and he was working in the detective squad. So he said he's only been a detective for 3 years. That's as long as this case has, been active. So it's a troubling situation. But I wanted to get Melanie. I wanted to get your thoughts on day 4, 5, and 6. Mm-hmm. What you're feeling from an attorney standpoint of how the prosecution's doing and how the defense is doing.
I think it's too early to tell, and I think the fact that we couldn't see any of that body cam footage it makes it hard to judge. But there's just a couple of things that I want to point out. Chief Jesse Hightower, his testimony, I found. He testified for 2 days. He testified yesterday, day 4 and day 5, I believe. And he was on the stand for most of yesterday. We could hear the body cam footage and we could hear him questioning Jacqueline. And Jacqueline didn't know the children's birthdays. She didn't know what they were wearing. I mean, if your kids went missing an hour ago, do you think you might remember what they were wearing? The fact that she didn't know their birthdays was also horrifying to me. She had very, very sketch details. And I wrote in my notes here, I wish I could see the video and her body language and her expressions. He saw with his body cam footage, there were no footprints. There were no indications that anyone had been in that dirt lot. He also testified that the gate was very, very heavy.
Yeah.
There were a lot of problems with the body cam footage and with the manufacturer of the body cam footage, and they had no tech support for the body cam footage. So the problem with a lot of it is that the date and the times are wrong on the body cam footage, which I thought was explained, and I thought they rehabilitated themselves pretty well on that. There was a lot of testimony, we can get into this too, about a firearm that was found and whether or not he had put it in a safe place.
Yeah, he put it under a blanket in the room in one of the bedrooms because he wanted to. As he said, he wanted to keep the officer safe in case Trezell or Jacqueline went to go for it. In my world, that firearm gets taken out and locked in my cruiser or locked in a lockbox somewhere, or another officer comes and takes it and brings it back to the precinct. You don't secure a weapon by putting it under blankets, and that's what I understood today. The testimony is that put it under like a pillow or blankets within the home.
Yeah, on the kid's bunk bed or something.
Yeah, I mean, ridiculous. But things get done differently, and again, we have rules and regulations that would have to be something that would be taken and brought to the station house and vouchered and so forth, or kept for safekeeping, whatever the case may be. I know, Bill, you have lots to say about that. But what was interesting, too, is that Jacqueline's mom came on and gave testimony and didn't even know or know of conversations, or she said, I don't speak to Trezell. And then she backtracked and tried to say that she doesn't speak to him because he doesn't speak Spanish. But she didn't even know the kids' names either.
She didn't know any of the kids' names.
Any of them.
And they lived behind each other. They shared a wall. Their apartments were back to back.
Yeah, it was.
She knew
You know,
nothing.
Ron,
She remembered nothing.
We spoke about the last time we covered this show. We spoke about people that are in foster care just for the bucks. And that, first of all, should be illegal. That is horrific that people go in and they don't have another job. They just, this is their job. And these were the two best parents they could find for these two kids. These two shouldn't have had their own kids. Their own kids should have been taken away from them. Yeah. And they're doing it for, to make a living. That's horrific. It's just, look, and I'm not blaming California. We have the Thomas Valva case in New York, which was unbelievable, right? Yeah. And this is the state of child welfare in this country. They don't give enough money to it. They don't give enough training to it. They're not overseen by anybody. And these are the tragedies that happen.
Yeah. Amy 007 says Jacqueline's mom only knew, Maria Martinez only knew biological grandchildren's names. How convenient. So these foster kids that they're making money off of, this is a business for them. They're making $4,000 a month from these kids. She couldn't give a rat's ass what their names were. It's telling when you hear stuff like this. I'm going to play day 6 wrap up from 23 ABC. Former Bayan Wang news. Let's hear what they had to say about day 6.
Another day of testimonies in the books in the West murder trial. The Cal City couple accused of killing their 2 adopted sons, Orrin and Orson. This morning, the mother of Jacqueline West taking the stand, followed by the boys' former foster mother. 23 ABC's Veronica Morley joins us live outside the courthouse with a recap of today's testimony. Veronica.
2 to hit.
She doesn't realize she's on.
That's right, Mark. 2 mothers testifying today. The first, Maria Martinez, Jacqueline West's mother, and the second, Latoya Sanders, the former foster mother for Orrin and Orson West. Now, beginning with Sanders, who was emotional as she testified on the stand, stating that both boys were well behaved and loved while they were in her home. Sanders stated she was close to adopting the boys before CPS removed them from her home. Sanders explaining that this was after a report to Child Protective Services regarding her eldest daughter and difficult interactions with a CPS worker. She said she learned of their disappearance over the news and went to the West's home in Cal City the following day to find out what happened. Before concluding her testimony, the defense asking when Sanders was first interviewed regarding this case. She responds it wasn't until a year ago. Meanwhile, Jacqueline's mother, Maria Martinez, testifying today, saying she had very little interaction with the family following their move to Cal City. She said she visited only twice, and while she saw the children in the home, she didn't focus on them. Martinez also testifying that when officers interviewed her about this case, they would tell her she would be charged with a crime if she were covering for the couple. Now, along with Sanders and Martinez, prosecution also called Detective John Ryan to the stand, a liaison with BPD for the FBI. They also played a video recording with Jacqueline West, where detectives grilled her about the night in question when the boys were reported missing. Well, the testimony is set to resume tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.
So there you have it. We know that these boys were first fostered, and then that's how it goes. They're fostered, and then they apply and they adopt. And it's, for me, it's clear and straightforward that the care that these boys received was subpar compared to the care of their biological children. It was apparent, based on not just her mother's testimony, but based on her friend who also lived in those Casa Loma apartments. And that was on Tuesday. She gave testimony. I forgot her name, but one of Jacqueline's girlfriends said that she never even heard them move out. She didn't even know that they moved. She found out they were gone when Jacqueline told her that they were gone. And then they pushed her to see how they communicated. And she said, oh, we FaceTimed or we videoed, but I never saw the kids. It was just me and Jackie. It's just odd, girlfriends and, like my wife, when my kids were little, we would show the kids and we would do these FaceTime videos. My sister lived upstate and we would show the kids and, have hundreds. And we heard testimony from the foster mom, Latoya Sanders. She said, I have thousands of pictures of Sincere and Classic. And she referred to them as, with their natural born birth names. She said, I have thousands of pictures of them. I loved them. Jacqueline and Trezell had shit. They had no pictures. They couldn't even provide a picture, a current picture. Bill, remember that early on? That was a telltale sign. Again, this case just gets me crazy because we're talking about justice for these two little boys. And when you have these officers that are coming on that aren't prepared, I'm hoping and praying that going forward, and I said this last week, I said it on our last video, we hope for better, but I'm not seeing a whole bunch better. And that's
Ron, from a prosecutorial strategy, I'm a little surprised that they didn't sever their cases and try to get one of them to flip on the other. And I don't know if behind the scenes they tried to do that, but it might have been a good strategy. This way they could have also recovered the boys and they didn't have to offer them a heavy duty deal, whoever took the deal. But I'm wondering if they did do that.
Look, they did it in Lori Daybell and Chad Daybell, two separate cases. They did it in the Valva.
Valvas, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that, Melanie?
On severing the cases? I mean, if one of them wasn't going to roll over on the other one, it saves judicial resources and the court's time, and it prevents inconsistent verdicts to try them both together. That's the advantage. The only thing that I found of value that Jacqueline's mother contributed to this story is that she told us that once the children are adopted, CPS stops visiting. So I had been wondering, what would be the incentive for adopting children that you don't really want or care for very well in the first place? And there's your incentive. Once you adopt, CPS doesn't come around anymore. Jacqueline's mother remembered nothing. And I just couldn't tell if she maybe had memory issues or she just had no interest. She said, I never visited them. They were right behind me. But, she had her life and I had mine. And she had a couple of her own adopted children. And the woman I think she said she's 70 years old. And she still has a little adopted. It's a source of income for some people. It's not an altruistic thing.
It's like a business. And that's the unfortunate part is, some folks will do it, income wise, but still love and give a loving home to these children. But others will do it just as it's just a mill. And look, as many as I can get, I think the limit is 6 children for the household. And you see a lot of people with 6 kids out there in California because you're making $4,000. It's unfortunate, but again, we can't just say that this is how it is for everybody. Obviously, we're not saying that, but in this case, it's clear and apparent that they didn't have a lot of love for Sincere and Classic, and Keeshallday is in the chat, and look at the comment. It's all about the Benjamins. She lives out there. She's in Bakersfield. She knows about the terrain there. She knows about the landscape better than us New Yorkers would know about it. So this is the problem. And there's so many great foster parents out there. There's so many great foster homes, but it's always the bad apples that spoil it for the good group of people that are out there. And it goes like that in anything, with the attorneys, with the police, with mechanics, with doctors, with lawyers. So we could just go on and on about this.
There's
Ron, child services always takes a beat down, but we also have to understand they're not paid a lot of money. And I'm not giving anyone an excuse to do poorly at their job, but really society and government needs to up the ante and pay these people. Social workers, most of them have master's degrees, and they're paying them really substandard wages for a very, very, very important job. So as a society, as a government agency, I think we should take it a little more seriously, and these people should be compensated much better for and a very tough job. Talk about PTSD. Think of the situations these people go into.
Go ahead, Melanie.
We need to do better for our children. Okay. How about instead of 87,000 IRS agents, we get 87,000 people who are going to go out there and advocate for children. Right.
Instead of overworking them and underpaying them. Most of these case workers, these social workers and so forth have a huge caseload. Bill, you know about the caseloads. They're just trying to get through them, and they're just trying to zip through their cases. And we saw it with Thomas Valva. They get to spend a window of time of 10 to 15 minutes with each household. That's not enough time to evaluate and see what's going on within that house. So again, too many cases, little pay gives little incentive to try to or want to do better. I shared the link with Jennifer Nobles, and if Roe, if you want to come, or Keish, or anybody wants to ask a question as it pertains to this trial, where we're at in this trial at this point, I'm going to share it right now in the chat because we're getting ready to wrap it up. So here's the link. If you want to come up and give a comment or give your thoughts, or ask a question of my guest, put in the chat #Melanie, #Bill, #DutyRon, and we're going to check the chat now as we close in for the last 5 minutes. Yeah, Roe is an MVP because she's been there from day one. She is on the bio side, cousins to these boys. She has been handing out flyers, handing out and hanging banners all across Bakersfield and California City. She's been in every area talking about these boys from day one. Roe has been the mouthpiece of this family, and she has been on every news station. She'll talk on anybody's show that she could talk about the boys on. So there's nobody better that is put effort forward to get their names out there than Roe. And you know what? Listen, there's so many people out there that don't have the best interests of these cases in the forefront. We here on Crime Time with DutyRon, we supported those billboards through crowdsourcing, and found everyone was funding the $1,000 a month on these billboards. We did that for 15 months. And on Highway 99, huge Lamar billboard digital sign, pictures of those boys on Highway 99 for 15 months. So that was a great thing that we all did together. And we did it as a community. So I'm thankful to each and every one of you guys who sent in dollar donations, $5, some people thousands of dollars. So thank you to the ladies and gentlemen who supported Sincere and Classic all along this whole way. Bill, you and I personally have done hundreds of videos on this case. I think in my playlist, there's over 125 videos. I would speak about these boys until the sun came down, night and day. I was going live continuously. I remember at one point, Bill was like, I'm burnt out, DutyRon. I can't talk about him anymore, because I used to get him to come on with me early on. But yeah, listen, the more we talk about this, the more we can have a chance to have some change. And in Bakersfield, down in Kern County, there's something going on. There's something wrong with the system, the way it's going, the checks and balances. And we understand that once the adoption process is done, there's no more checks. They don't do random checks anymore. And we heard that testimony today. That testimony came from Latoya Sanders when she was crossed with the defense. The defense asked her a lot of questions, and she answered them very graciously.
I found her testimony to be very compelling. She was very passionate. She loved the boys. She wanted to adopt them. And it's tragic that she wasn't able to.
She was in the process. She loved them, and she wanted to have those boys, to be honest. She said they were my boys. So Keeshallday, I believe, is close friends with Latoya. And she says, and I'm not saying that because she's a close friend of mine. Okay, here. So I missed the first part of that. But Keish, I'm going to try to scroll back and see if I can find what you were saying. Wow, this chat is going crazy. No, I can't find it, but thank you for your comment there. And I know it's, something in regards to Latoya Sanders and what she did, the love that she gave these boys, besides the love that the boys received from their biological mother and Latoya, she did a wonderful job. And those are the people who are to be commended. Ro is saying, where's the link? I put it in the chat, Ro. So let me just paste it and then put it in, and then I'll pin it. How's that? All right. So we're going to get ready to wrap up. I didn't see any questions. Did you see anything in the chat, Melanie? Because I'm
not watching the chat. It just
Ron,
strikes me, so I don't even have it on.
Ron, there was one question that someone asked, is that when they're foster parents, they get paid. Once they adopt the kids, do they still get paid? That's the question.
They do, but they get paid less.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think instead of $1,000 a kid, maybe it goes down to $800 a kid. I think.
On the mortgage application, they were already adopted, and they said that they had an income of $4,000 a month. So I have to assume it's more when they're fostering, more like $2,000 a kid. But the ladies in Bakersfield, they'll know this. I'm sure Keish might have answers to this. Ro might have answers to it, and so would Jen. But I did post the link in the chat if anybody wants to come on up, and I'm going to do it one more time, and then we're going to wrap it up because we're almost at the hour. That's this is 3 live streams that I've done today. My voice is giving out.
You're tired.
Yeah, it's tiring. But again, we had to talk about Angela Polina being sentenced 25 to life plus those 4 extra years, so 29 to life. I needed to talk about Chad Daybell, Lori Daybell, Shallow Vallow, as I call her. We needed to have a conversation about that. And then I had Barbara Butcher come on today. All right, let's see who's here. Oh, there she is, Ro. Hey, how are you, Ro? Thank you for being here with us. All right, so you could just do the audio. How are you, Ro? How are you holding up?
Tired, but hey, we're here, and we just keep praying for strength, and it's I just want to, first of all, I just want to thank God for even giving us all the strength to listen to what we're hearing, and to actually being there, seeing certain things, and it's gonna get worse. I mean, it's only gonna get more disturbing. So we just gotta prepare our minds mentally, because it's tough. We can't break now. We here, so but I just pray for, I mean, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for everybody. I know everybody say I'm MVP, but it's deeper than that. I would do this because it's family. I have to do this. My cousin, I see his face. He will be testifying on Tuesday, on the 17th. They're going to go through everybody. So we already know the process because we've been there since day one. So we kind of have a good picture of who's coming up next,
Right.
But I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing to see the lack of, just professionalism. We've always said this case was mishandled from the beginning, not knowing what we know today. But now I see why we felt that way. But just like I said, reports, man, that defense is trying to, like you said, poke holes in this whole thing. But the prosecutor Smith, I believe he's organized. So we just got to continue to have faith, and Latoya did great today. She stood her ground. She didn't let them poke holes in her. She was strong. When you really love kids, it shows.
Right.
And not one like even the FBI guy that was on the stands today. I mean, the videos. I mean, when you see the footage,
right.
It's different. And the body language, I wish you guys could have seen it,
Right.
because everybody in there looking like, wow,
That's
and so
I wanted to ask you because you've been in the courtroom every day, right, since day one?
yes.
Okay. So you have the vantage point of actually seeing and hearing these responses, and you're there when there's the breaks and they approach the bench and so forth. I'm wondering if I can ask her this. You know, I wanted to try to get your feel and your take on the body language that you were getting from the officers that were coming up on the stand. Were they slouched over? Were they sitting up straight? Were they paying attention?
I mean,
any takeaways from watching the testimony from the officers?
I mean, let me go in the car because it's kind of windy, so I want you to hear me on this because you know me. They know I have a voice. I'm not scared to use my voice, so and they know my opinions. I mean, I'm pretty sure they see my facial expressions. It's hard to not say nothing when you're staring at the people who allegedly murdered your family members, your loved ones.
Right.
Regardless of what happened, they're not here today. And they would have been here. Latoya was our last resort. They should have never been removed. But Latoya was the last resort for Classic and Sincere to be here alive, to have a chance at life. And they even took that from her. I mean, you heard it, how the news said it with that social worker, however they said it, but it's sad, like Bill said, they need to stop. You guys said they need to stop giving people, if you can't, I mean, give them enough to take care of these babies, but don't babies for benefits. I mean, it's sad. You could tell who does it for the money. And Keisha, there's a few people in there that been out there since day one. So that's what I'm saying. When you see me, just know it's an army behind me. It's an army. I'm not alone. Can't nobody fight this alone. And thank God for all the prayers because God's answering our prayers. We just really have to keep our faith, like we've been doing. You know what I mean? And people ask me, how do you stay strong? I mean, I'm still numb from my mom, so it's kind of hard, so I mean, we just want to we know justice is coming. I'm gonna just say it like that. I'm not no cop, but I could tell I'm common sense, and the officers and just the body languages, and I mean, you could tell they're young, they're young cops. They're a small agency or whatever, private agency, it's a lot. So, but like I said, reports, you guys say they train them in academies and stuff. Like that's something.
We
train
once in an academy.
I was learning that in criminal justice class. So that's what I'm saying. Reports are so important because like you said, you can go back and go over your notes. Right. We're not going to remember everything, but when it's the truth, when you got the truth, there's only one truth and you're going to remember that all the time. You get what I'm saying? You're going to remember the truth even when you get old.
Ro,
so
I want to ask you about the body language and what vibe you're getting from Trezell and Jacqueline West. Did you make any eye contact with them? Did they make eye contact with you? Are they actually facing the audience or is their backs to the audience? Can you set this up for some of the people who are watching this?
It's a small court. It's not that big. So it's like, we're sitting right there. So, on the left side of the court, the judge in the middle, the left side of the court is the jury. The right side of the court are them, the Jacqueline and Trezell, the monsters. And we're on the left side when you walk in by the jury, on that side. And then like whoever else is on the right side, they have all kind of different people coming in, observing or watching the trial, whatever they're doing. So you got different people. And then the media is in front of us sitting in the first two roles, I believe, so, but I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Trezell stares and yeah, we stare. We ain't threatening. We know they got cameras all in there. We're not trying to throw this trial, but what's wrong with us looking at the murderers? You get what I'm saying? When the babies had to look at them,
right,
for however long they had them and whatever they did to them, they can't face us. They already told us we can't wear the shirts. I mean, I understand that. We don't want to throw a mistrial, but if anybody does a mistrial, it's going to be the lack of the investigation, the you know what I mean, the not prepping. Melanie, like y'all said, my cousin.
Melanie, do you have any advice for Ro? Maybe sitting in the courtroom? Is what she's doing wrong? Maybe the eye contact. I don't see anything.
I think she can look at them. I mean, she's not, doing
Thank
anything
you.
obscene or shouting anything
Exactly.
improper. You're allowed to look wherever you want to look. And I wanted to ask you, Ro, is the courtroom packed?
Like there's like 10 people that come with us. A lot more people want to come, but I mean, it's not going to be enough for the supporters. It's not packed to where it's like shoulder to shoulder, you know. A lot of a family, I guess. Now that I'm looking at who's being witnesses, some people can't be there. Like from my side of the family, like my cousin, he has to go on Tuesday. But when you guys were saying prepping the witnesses, I mean, communication is the key in this, and it's a lack of communication from the beginning, and it's sad, but it's not packed, but it can be. But we're kind of walking on, we have to watch as a bio. Like honestly, we're not supposed to even they lost rights. You know what I mean? We understand that. But did I care? Did he care? The bio parent? No, this is their kid. This is our bloodline. So we have to, regardless, we're there. They know that. I mean, I don't know if it's breaking the law to be there, but hey, that's breaking the law, lock me up.
Courtrooms are public. Anybody can go sit in a trial.
Yeah.
So
And
you can go sit in any courtroom you want and watch trial. It's public.
I'm controlling my own because, like I said, I mean, I can't control other people, but I'm really controlling how I react. And it's hard. It's tough. Today, Toya made us all cry. Even some of the, I mean, the jury, it was deep. It was deep.
That's very interesting to hear that the jurors were crying. I mean, that's an excellent sign.
Was on point, man. Like when you get traumatized from something, like the parents and her, and now look at where we're at today, when you're traumatized, you remember. You get what I'm saying? She remembers it like yesterday, just like my cousin, he remembers. And I told him she's gonna try to, the defense is gonna try to tear him apart, but I just hope he holds on as his emotions. That's it. I can't tell him how to act on his emotions. He has 3 children now deceased. I can't tell him, because one of his oldest children died in a car accident. So now these 2, even though one of them is his, but he was there at birth, so it's tough. And then and then the foster, like they all are grieving.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of interviews that he's given over the time, and you could see the pain in his face, So,
and even the supporters, like Keisha, man, she held them babies, and I'm not gonna lie, Toya and them, they had more time with Classic and Sincere, because they took them at 3 months, Sincere, and then 11 days later came and got Classic after they let them take them home instead of taking them from the hospital, the second child. You know what I mean? How they usually do it. And anyway, that's a whole nother show or whatever. Yeah. But I could go on. I mean, I done educated myself through all the help, support. You guys watching, all the professionalism has helped me. You guys don't understand. I may not be out there no more. It's mind blowing.
Yeah.
Speechless.
Well, you're providing an inside look into the courtroom for us, without breaking any rules. We're not asking you to do anything that is going against the court order. You're there as an observer. Reporters can come into that courtroom and tweet about it and, put their observations, and anything that we ask you here would not jeopardize or hurt this case. Melanie, I've got Melanie here. I got Sergeant Bill here. And me, we've been speaking for a long, long time. I've got your best interest at heart. But it is invaluable for the people who are following this to hear things like, jurors getting emotional at testimony. And that's a good thing to see that.
And just know that the body language in the interrogation is a joke. Like they don't, I mean, it's hard sitting there watching the lies. I'm gonna tell y'all that now. It's really hard and tough watching the lies, like, you know, and no kind of emotions. Even the FBI guy said that. Like he was drilling her. Like and I was like, that's what I'm talking about. Make her know that y'all know there ain't no footprints. This is all a lie. Y'all done wasted all these resources making people tell us where the bodies are. Tell us what y'all did. Come on now. Y'all man, God's gonna, reveal the truth anyways. I
Sergeant
wish
Bill,
Keisha was up here.
she is here. I'm going to add her in a second.
Oh,
Sergeant Bill, I wanted to just go to you just for a second, because what Roe is talking about here is what you had mentioned from the beginning. You said that Trezell and Jacqueline West should be in the box for 18, 24, 36 hours, however long it took. Separately, they should have been in the box until they confessed.
You know, Ron, the police can also use fatigue as their ally. So I know it's not a like the Army or something like the Armed Forces interrogation, but the police can use things like fatigue. Also, fresh investigators. If one investigator who interviewing them gets tired, you put a fresh guy in there and you alternate them. That is the interview interrogation is a real art form, and that's the art form of it. And that's why I was a boss that watched all the really important interrogations. And if I saw a detective was having problems, I would pull him out and say, "Hey, you okay in there? You want me to put someone else in there?" And usually I was correct, and I would say, "Yes, Sarge, I'm just shot. I can't do it. I'm too tired." And I'd put someone else in there. And you watch also to see rapport. Is the interviewer, is the interrogator, does he have a rapport? Does she have a rapport with the person? If there's no rapport, that might be a good time to take the person out too. It's a real art form, a real technique. And these two should have been, interrogated for probably 24 hours or as long as it took, because maybe they didn't have the resources or the talent to do it. But this was, if you get the right people in there, they will confess. They will make admissions.
Thank you for that, Bill. Ro, I muted you because it was kind of reverbing in the background. Let's add Keyshawn and see what she has to say. Last time she came on, she gave some good input, but I want to hear what she has to say about Latoya Sanders' testimony today. Hey, Keish, how are you? Love and respect.
Hello to everybody. I just wanted to get on here real quick and say a couple things. First, as I'm sitting in there and I observe the officers, they sit up straight. But the thing that kills me is their documents, their documentations was not correct. They don't recall anything. Now, I did hear some was kind of new. They might have been on there for 5 months. I think Hanson was. But I feel like the older ones should be able to go back and look at their documents and make sure that they have everything correct, that they documented it correctly, that everything was correct with their documentation. Secondly, by Jacqueline mama getting up there today, she had no emotions. Her daughter, if that's my mom sitting up there, I'm going to be crying, because now I done put my mama in a situation that she got to sit up here and tell this, try to cover up for me, basically. So I'm going to be crying. There's no kind of nothing. Trezell just sits there and stares at us. We stare back. You know what I'm saying? I don't think nothing's wrong with that. Jacqueline is kind of covered. She's sitting in the back of her attorney, so we really can't see her face. But today I sat on the other end just so I can see when Toya get up there and talk how she gonna feel. She had no expressions. Her expressions is normal. Like, she's just so pretty sitting up there. They're well dressed, hair groomed. They're just sitting there. Now, I'm going to speak on Toya real quick. I am good friends with Toya. So Toya emotions, the way she handled today was good. I was in the presence as her raising, when she got the kids. I done hugged the kids, kissed the kids, and I know how she kept the kids well, very well. Those kids were so happy as babies, just they went to the beach, they did things with the kids, with the other kids, and she did never, ever keep those kids separated from the other kids. They were all like, these are my brothers. We are one. She never separated them. And the crying that he always cried, they never did it with Toya. So I just feel like they knew kids have energy. They can feel your spirit, your energy, if it's good or bad. So maybe that's why he always cried. But to separate these kids from the other kids, you're just evil. And I'm telling people, because people hit me in my inbox, so they just don't show no expressions. My looking demons don't show expressions. They're evil. That was their intent, was to be evil to these kids. You didn't just hurt Classic and Sincere. You guys had 2 other adopted kids from someone else, and you had your own 2. So now your 2 is motherless and fatherless. So you hurted all 6 kids that you had, including your bloodline. And you have no tears or no expressions to show. That's an evil problem. And you can't look at it no way, but when you're watching, I tell her, but just know you're looking at demons. And demons has no emotions. They did their job and they did what they had to do. That's just my thing of it, to make me not feel so, oh my God, they don't have no expressions. Demons don't have expressions. They're here to be evil. And they was evil to those babies and to their own kids. And it's very emotional sitting in there when I come out, because I have touched these kids and I have kissed these kids. It's very, it's just very, I don't know. It's just, I sometimes I just can't take it. So I have to leave in order to get myself back together. You know what I mean? Because I was in the presence of these children and I touched these kids. So it's so hurtful to see people sit up there and just have nothing. So I have to say, I'm looking at demons when they talking. That's all.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, your strength and your, presence there means so much to not just everybody watching, but just for the boys. And you're there in spirit. You're there to give them strength and prayer. And, again, it's not easy to sit in there in a courtroom and hear the things that you are going to hear by sitting in that courtroom throughout this whole trial. And I know you'll be there with Roe every day that you can be there. So
and we can't show no emotions in there. We can't even, like, if we got to shed a tear, we have to go out. So we have to keep it all bottled up until we can go out. You know what I'm saying? That's very mentally messing with us emotionally.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, y'all, but
okay.
It's grueling to sit there day after day after day. It's exhausting and it's grueling.
Yeah.
Very.
Yeah. And it's gonna get worse, because you're gonna hear testimony from Trezell's kids. And they're going to talk about some really horrific things. And you're going to also hear stuff from the Bakersfield Police Department. I'm sure their homicide squad, we haven't heard anything from them yet. They're going to come in there and give their testimony. It's not going to, I'll say this, your strength is going to be needed going forward, because as this thing progresses, it's they're going to get more into it. So Keish, Roe, we're here always for you guys. Phone support. You got my phone number. I know all of you guys have my number. Anything that I can do, we're going to continue to cover this case. We're going to continue to talk about it. But inside that courtroom, your perspective is something that you could share, and you could share it without breaking that order. You're allowed to speak about what you see in that courtroom. Once the court is over and the day is done, you're allowed to speak about it. Correct me if I'm wrong, Melanie.
Your observations, absolutely.
Oh, thank you for that, because I've been having a gag order. I put a gag order on myself.
Hey,
we
listen,
both were scared to even say anything. Like, we just better be quiet.
No, for real. We don't want to do nothing.
right, but
That's going to hold this mistrial.
right, I get it. But ladies, we have news reporters that are tweeting. I have it queued up here. They're giving play-by-plays of everything that's happening in that courtroom. I'm saying once the court is done and the day is done, you're allowed to speak about what you witnessed. You're there.
And now it's public record because it happened already. You're not giving away stuff that is not in evidence. You're talking about stuff that's in evidence.
Right. Nobody should be
and
rebroadcasting the audio of the
right.
testimony. But if you want to come on anybody's show in particular, or any newscast or anything of your own, you want to go on Facebook Live and talk. Hey, I had a stressful day in court. It was so emotional today. You know, we heard from this shithead and this shithead and that shithead, or whatever you want to say. You can do that. You know, you just you just
Well,
can't.
you see, we haven't even did an interview with the news yet, because we didn't know that, like, our minds are so flooded with just everything else. That Keisha's still grieving through her auntie, and just things that are open wounds that we have still,
Right.
And but thank you for that knowledge, because I don't mind keeping all the supporters around the world, because all you YouTubers, thank you, DutyRon, and everyone who supports the boys, Classic and Sincere, like you guys have the right to be updated on what's going on,
Right.
And I wish this was a lot like televised,
Right.
because it should be. It really should be.
And
It's the judge's rule.
The sad part, Roe and Melanie and Keish and Bill, the sad part is when this was all happening, when it was in the beginning, this was all over the news everywhere. You had Good Morning America, all these big news stations, Court TV, News Nation, all of them were picking up this story. Now it's like crickets, and that's sad, because the media picks and chooses the stories they want to talk about. What happened to our boys? What happened to the coverage that they deserve? And there was no way in hell that I was going to stay quiet about it. I know that I can't do a live every day about the court, so I've been condensing it to days, 3 days in a row, or I may wait 4 days or 5 days, but every week I'm going to be given updates on this, on the story and how this court case progresses. This trial is so important to me, and
we'll come on your show every weekend and give our perspective on what we, to your subscribers, to you all, and maybe you guys could just get us prepared for the next wave of this.
Yeah, it's gonna get worse, because as the presentation goes deeper into the case, we're going to hear more and more about it. And Melanie, you could probably talk more about this, of how this is going to go for them.
Sure.
DutyRon, I do have a question though.
Okay.
Sorry, or it could be for Melanie, but I can't see. I don't have my glasses on. I'm using my phone. So okay, so there is a civil case coming after this criminal case, right? And so my cousin's gonna be a witness, right? Today the defense asked Toya, like, something about the Sincere, about, do she know what happened? You get what I'm saying? That's something that shouldn't be talked about in court. And if they ask my cousin that, I'm gonna stand up and tell him he can't, because he don't, his mind is some, like, he's sane right now, and I keep him busy working and stuff, just to try to prepare him for what's gonna come, And but when it comes to that, I mean, I'm gonna reach out to his attorney, but at the same time, even Latoya is being represented, right, Keisha? I don't believe they should have asked her certain questions. That's all I'm saying. Because I know what's going on with this. I know what's going on with that case.
Melanie, the district attorney is supposed to stand up if there's any inappropriate questions coming from
somebody would object. Are you talking about the broken leg? The questions about the broken leg and how it happened? And they were asking, who did they ask? Latoya, about if she knew how it happened?
Yeah, because they was questioning about the braces, I guess, and she brought that up. Do you know what happened? And then Toya said no. Right. Yeah. So I don't know if that was kind of, because I mean that's she's being represented by the same attorney. So that's all I'm saying.
Right. So she was prepped for that. I mean, a good attorney never asks a question they don't know the answer to, ever.
Right.
Every question that's asked in a courtroom, that attorney already knows what the answer is. And if the
Right.
witness doesn't give them the answer that they want, they'll point to their report, they'll point to their deposition testimony to impeach them, to get them to say what they want them to say.
Okay.
So, don't worry about that. And also don't get discouraged, because I know it sounds, you feel discouraged because you feel like a lot of these witnesses aren't prepared and they're not taking it seriously, and they're getting up there and they're not remembering things. But remember, a lot of these witnesses that are coming up there are there for the sole purpose of authenticating evidence, right? Like body cam footage. Like, is this your body cam footage? Yes, this is my footage. Now that footage is in evidence. So the jury can always ask to see it again.
Okay.
So just because the officer doesn't particularly remember or didn't look at his report, if the report is in evidence, the jury gets to see it. And that's really what's important, is to get
there's a lot of evidence
to talk about, to get that stuff into evidence.
Yeah, Smith is I believe in him because he's organized. We're here because of circumstantial evidence and direct evidence, and he's proving that so far. And I can only imagine what else he got, because he has, we done seen text messages, like just things, y'all know how it goes. So, it's you can't run from it. The truth is gonna come out regardless, so it's just a matter of time that, we get that verdict.
Yeah. Well, listen, we're here at this an hour and almost 30 minutes, so I'm going to wrap it up. Ladies, Roe and Keish, I appreciate you guys being here and coming on to the show. You're like family. We're like a big family together. So I really appreciate that you guys are comfortable enough to come up here and speak with myself and my guests, Sergeant Bill and Attorney Melanie Little. They will make themselves available to answer any questions that you guys have. You could just send them to me. I'll reach out to them and I'll ask them your questions. I have, direct line access to Melanie now, and Bill and I speak almost every day. So if there's anything that you need anytime, day or night, give me a call, give me a text, and I'll be more than happy to, send a message or send a question to them. Or if I can answer it myself, I will. So I think we're going to wrap it up. Yeah, we're going to wrap it up. You guys are going to be in the courtroom tomorrow?
Yes.
All right. All right. Well, we're sending you a whole lot of hugs and prayers and strength.
That's what we do need. We need a double portion.
And prayers, please.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pray for everyone's strength, man.
Prayer, strength, and positive vibe from all of us here, guys. So I'll end the show with us all here. This is like the family, Hollywood Squares, the family. As I like to always end these live streams, God bless the world, God bless the United States of America, and God bless each and every one of us here in the chat, but especially our boys, Sincere and Classic. We send strength, prayers, and positive vibes to their families, the community, and everybody that's involved in justice. I want to just say special thank you to my guests, Melanie Little, Sergeant Bill Cannon, Roe, and Keish. Thank you guys all for being here, and I'll see you again on the next one.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Stay strong.
Take care, guys.
Thank you.